probably about 6 months before I retired, I had a friend that owned a big company, and he asked me to come and talk to his executive team about leadership. And I knew him from jiu-jitsu. I was like, yeah, cool. And I went up and I gave like the kind of leadership brief that I gave to the SEAL platoons. And I think in his mind, I was going to get up and be like, hey, you need to do push-ups or whatever. And all of a sudden I'm talking about decentralized command and taking ownership and prioritizing and executing all these things. And then they started Q&A and they started asking me about leadership, and I'm answering all these questions. And by the time I got done, he's like, I want you to talk to every division I have in my company. And I was like, well, I'm retiring. And, and he's like, I will pay you. And I was like, well, and he's like, oh, let's make a deal. And I said, okay. So I started going around talking to all of his divisions. And at one of those divisional meetings, the CEO of the parent company was there. And the guy came up to me afterwards and said, I want you to come talk to all my CEOs. And he owned like 45 or 50 companies at the time. And I went and did that. And then it just started happening. And I eventually was getting like business, And Leif had gotten out of the Navy, the Army. Leif had gotten out of the Navy, and he was like kind of considering going to law school, I think, at the time. And his wife was, gainfully employed at Fox News. And, I was like, hey man, I need some fire support over here. And he's like, want to do a leadership company? And I'd kind of talked about it with him before, because when I started talking to these civilian companies, I realized that everything I had learned about leadership applied to all leadership. It wasn't unique to combat. It was leadership was leadership. And once I realized that I had something that would be useful for a lot of people. And so then, like I said, it just grew word of mouth. And from there, this is kind of how all this stuff eventually happened, because as Leif and I would talk to different companies, and they would come up afterwards and be like, hey, do you have this stuff written down anywhere? Do you have a pamphlet you can give us? And so we wrote it down. And then I think one of Leif's wife's friends or something was a literary agent, was like, this could be a book type thing. And so we wrote a book proposal, and yeah, the book agent shopped it around, and one of the people, I think the fourth or fifth person at St. Martin's Press was like, well, we'll take it. And so we wrote the book, and, the book came out, and it really did well. So
yeah, it did.
Yeah.
It did really fucking well.